Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Oji.
Fantastic. Good morning, Dr. Abati, and happy Friday. Happy Friday to you. Good morning, Tundu.
Koji.
You know how I get on Fridays? I'm always
your
so
favorite day of
giddy.
the week,
I'm always so happy. Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, Oji. Great Friday.
Yes.
Thank God for the weekend.
TGIF, as always. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe. In Belgium, teenage aviator Zaria Road on Thursday became the youngest woman to fly around the world solo. The 19-year-old, who was born in Brussels to a British professional pilot, Sam Rutherford, and a Belgian recreational pilot and lawyer, Beatrice de Smith, landed at the Kortrijk-Wevelgem Airport in western Belgium upon completing the epic 41-country journey spanning over 52,000 kilometers, breaking 2 Guinness World Records in the process. In Italy, Pope Benedict was accused in an inquest on Thursday of knowing about priests who abused children but failed to act when he was Archbishop of Munich from 1977 to 1982. The investigation, which was commissioned by the Roman Catholic Church, brought an end to the Pope's long-standing denials of sexual abuse at the Munich Archdiocese that spanned several decades. In Nigeria, photos of former President Olusegun Obasanjo decorating his son Adeboye Obasanjo with his new rank of Brigadier General has made the rounds. Obasanjo, who is a 2-term civilian ruler and former military head of state, retired as a general of the Nigerian Army. Adeboye's decoration with the new rank followed his recent promotion from colonel. Under sports, the Super Eagles of Nigeria will face the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia in the second round of the ongoing African Cup of Nations tournament, following Tunisia's 1-0 loss to Gambia on Thursday night. The tie against Tunisia is a repeat of the bronze medal match at AFCON 2019, where Odion Igalo's goal gave the Super Eagles victory and a third-place finish. Finally, under entertainment, producers of Tom Cruise's upcoming space movie have announced the planned launch of a sports arena and production studio in zero gravity, outer space. The space station module named SEE-1, set to be unveiled by December 2024, will become the first orbital content studio for films, television, and music in history. Well, let's begin what's trending with President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to Kaduna State to inaugurate some projects initiated by the governor of the state, Nasir el-Rufai. On Thursday, while speaking after the inauguration ceremony of the remodeled Kawo overhead bridge along Zaria Road, the president narrated how he narrowly escaped being killed in the area in 2014 and was saved by his security. The bombing incident, which left over 80 people dead, was described by Buhari as an assassination attack. At the time of the incident, Buhari was the leading opposition figure in the country. In the meantime, a video showing a Mammoth crowd that welcomed the president when he arrived in Kaduna for his 2-day visit to commission the projects in the state has made the rounds. Let's take a look. I can say is, the president has that massive following, that massive cult following. I think we were just discussing that. It's impossible to rent a crowd like this. I mean, look at that. It's amazing to see that, the president is so loved the way that he's, been appreciated in that particular state.
Well, I hope you know he's the 12 million votes man. He's good for 12 million votes any day.
I like that.
Yes, and people should, I think, be a little restrained in trying to impose their political views on other people. President Buhari does have his own following who completely adore him, as we can see. This is not a rent-a-crowd, and it's not fake affection being shown, it's genuine.
Yes.
And I guess they're showing that love for him as a politician, a public figure, and a former resident of Kaduna State. So they're going to recognize that. And it must be heartening for him to see that in spite of all the challenges, in spite of all the criticisms, which I must stress, are often valid criticisms, because nobody is really above criticism. But being criticized does not mean you're hated, does not mean you're loathed. No, we just want the best results from our leaders, and that's really what it's about. And the earlier part of what you said, his miraculous escape from death, for which I'm sure he's forever thankful. What would have been the perfect end to that anecdote, that recollection that he shared, would have been that, and today insecurity is a thing of the past in Nigeria. Such a thing no longer happens. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to add that at the end, because many people are not as lucky as he was, and they have lost their lives.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he did talk about the incident, but even during the whole ceremony, there was still an altercation that ensued between his security guards as well during that whole visit that yesterday, that occurred yesterday. So I don't know. It still goes to show the massive insecurity in that state, and the fact that the president has to, address it, because it did happen to him immediately as well.
Yeah, quite different from what Tunu said earlier. Insecurity remains a big problem in Nigeria. And I do not think it's going to disappear after the Buhari administration. It will be one of those things that, the next administration will also have to deal with. Yes, if he was attacked on the streets of Kaduna in 2014, insecurity still remains a problem in Kaduna State. Isn't that the same state where we have had many cases of kidnappings, even attacks on military and police formations to the consternation of Nigerians? And what that means clearly. Yes, he may have survived in 2014, but the problem remains. Yes. And one of the major expectations of Nigerians is that he, as a retired general, will be able to make a significant difference. Now you can measure it, depending on where you stand, in the equation, as to whether he has been able to make a difference in that regard or not. However, he says he doesn't have a very high expectations. That's one. The second thing, of course, is that he has very high praise for the governor of Kaduna State, who this day newspaper describes as the president telling him that he has written his name in good. Tunu is just passing a note to me. So you didn't hear me. I said the problem remains. I thought I had to say insecurity is no longer a problem. I thought that was what I had.
What Nigerian would ever say that? We wish. We wish, Dr.
So the clarification is important, because that remains a big problem. The other leg of it, you were talking about Mammoth crowd. Now, what's a Mammoth crowd?
Dr. Abati.
And in this regard, I'm referring to page 10 of this day, the last paragraph in that story at the top. Because what this day is reporting, except the reporter was blind and deaf and dumb when he was observing the story and writing it. The last paragraph says that, in fact, there was no fanfare, there was no celebration, as not many people came out on the street
to
welcome him.
You can see the visuals.
This is what the report
that's just one
on
report.
Page 10 of this day talks about. So let the editor of the paper or whoever wrote the story worry about it. However, what you cannot take away from President Muhammadu Buhari is that, look, he enjoys a cult-like following in the northern part of the country. And that's one of the biggest political assets that he has. And for him, going to Kaduna is like a homecoming. Because, he used to live in Kaduna. So if he goes to Kaduna, if he goes to Katsina, it's homecoming for him. And you'll expect that the people will come out. But the more important part of the narrative is the fact that the president himself, reporting the evidence of his eyes, is saying that the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir, el-Rufai, has done a lot in terms of upgrading infrastructure. And that indeed he could not recognize Kaduna when he visited. And there are many people who have given that testimony. Yes. So you may not like the politics of Nasir el-Rufai, either locally or nationally, But I've not had too many people saying that, he hasn't been able to make a difference. And that, I think, is quite commendable.
Yes, Rufai, your analysis on
So two things. Number one, we've seen the visit. We've seen, people come out for him. He's got a cult-like following. We can enunciate that enough. But what I want to be particular about is the incident of 2014. Let's not forget that other people died. Yeah.
Yes.
We thank God for lives preserved. But 82 people died cumulatively, and those were 2 bomb attacks.
Yeah.
2014, the thick of electioneering. It was. In fact, we had around gone into the season then because it was in February in 2015 we had the elections. And it just shows that this has been on for a while, insecurity in this country. And I think that what we should do is to find a way of settling it once and for all, because the challenges have changed. And I'll go back to the 80s. After the so-called very famous Metisani riots, there was a committee set up to look into it. And they saw that unemployment among young people, poverty, squalor was causing the problem. And must I add that, you see, we talk a lot about how the military quashed Metisani. Yes. But the threat then is not as grave as what we have now. The Metisani guys, I'm not sure I heard anywhere they carried AK-47. They were carrying clubs, daggers, swords. That's all they carried. So it was obviously the bullets against the clubs and the daggers and the swords. But the challenge we have now, it's become a country of people carrying AK-47. Almost every Tom, Dick, and Harry has an AK-47.
Yeah.
And that's why, part of this, we should work more on our intelligence system. Because as of that 2014, when the president was attacked, some people argue that at least they could still go from Kaduna to Abuja. But today, you can hardly ply that road because of the level of insecurity. So in looking for problems to this problem, in looking for solutions to this problem we have, how about we think about a holistic way? Could it be military intelligence? Could it be more to be done? Could it be anything? But anything that will just solve the problem. And also start to tackle the problem we have on ground. I keep speaking about the Almajiri problem. Because you see, the boys in the 80s that were never even born when we had that crisis, the boys that lived in poverty and that were left behind in the 90s are the ones, the Bello Tujis of this world now, that are 26 and less than 30. I hear Bello Tujis less than 30. And they're the ones causing all this mayhem. Less than 30-year-olds. But the question is, the Bello Tujis of the future are being born now because the poverty and the squalor and the neglect is still on with systems like the Almajiri system. We should introspect. A stitch in time, they say, saves 9.
It does. Well, all right. We'll take another story. With this video of an officer of the Nigerian police force wielding a gun while assaulting a woman in Edo State. In the video, the officer violently slapped the woman and opened fire while other officers at the scene tried to calm the situation. Let's take a look.
Officer, don't try that. Officer, don't try that. Don't try that nonsense. Try it. I'll kill you. Officer, you look at me. Don't fight me. I'll come and you get back. It's okay though. It's okay now. That will never do you. It's okay. It's okay. You can just be on the police. You talk to them, man. It's not like you talk anyhow.
Again, one of the demands of the NSAS protesters was a psychological evaluation of these police officers. I guess this man was attached to the disbanded SARS unit at one point. I believe he's been identified and hopefully an investigation will ensue. But this is so horrific. This man, I don't know if it's psychological evaluation he needs, but he appeared completely drunk. He shot at that woman twice. Tundu Abiola.
I'm completely gobsmacked by this. And I also thought about the NSAS protest when I saw this, and thought about how much was made at the time of the government's quick response to the demands of the protesters and the quick disbandment of SARS and replacing it with SWAT. And people were saying, well, why were the protesters not satisfied that the government has heard you? Go back home. This shows how cosmetic that change of name really was.
Absolutely.
Because the culture remains. And if not for that protest, if not that protest, it might seem to some like it made no difference and that the people died for nothing. They did not. Because really they have raised the level of professionalism with the security agencies. If not for that, that woman might have been killed.
Yes.
The man was threatening her life, but he stopped short of actually taking it.
Yes.
He could have actually killed that woman in the rage that he was in. Nobody there could control him. He didn't see that he was threatening a human being like himself. He was completely out of his senses. And I'm so glad whoever had the presence of mind to record this encounter should be commended so that he can be disciplined appropriately. He must be. He must be, and I'm sure that he will, because we will never go back to how we were before. The EndSARS protests really did move the needle in this country.
Yes.
The atrocities continue, but now there's a greater sensitivity, there's a greater awareness, and you have to take action. It's very important. It was just Armed Forces Remembrance Day recently, and I like a few poems that I like to read around that time. And one of them is Tommy by Rudyard Kipling. And one of the lines there that always strikes me is how we make mockery of the uniforms that guard us while we sleep. We want to be grateful to our security agencies, but you see this man is the one making a mockery of the uniform that he is wearing. He's a complete disgrace to the police force.
And should be, I mean, I don't think that
he has to be sanctioned.
I don't know if sanction is enough, really.
Recently there was a case.
I don't think it should be part of the unit.
No, sanctions include dismissal,
includes
jail.
Completely.
It's a really broad term.
Recently there was a case in Ibadan whereby there was this conflict between soldiers and men of the civil defense and some other people. And I think the Nigerian army issued a statement that the person had been identified and that the officer involved will be sanctioned appropriately. Now, we have this video to rely on. There's video evidence. So I think that the police also should waste no time in identifying the errant officer and ensure that he's made to go through the disciplinary process. Because also in the police, they have a disciplinary procedure. Now, second thing is that, look, this guy used to be a member of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, popularly known as EndSARS. Now, the name was changed, they were redeployed and all of that. But it looks like that for some policemen, brutality is genetic.
Yes.
And that's what I guess Tunu meant when she was talking about brutality becoming a culture. What the police will tell you all the time is that, look, they don't have any such thing in their standard operating procedure. But what kind of system do they run whereby, the police officers do not know what this operating procedure is? Is it a problem with the training colleges or is it a problem with recruitment? Third point. The EndSARS protesters of October 2020, one of their major demands was psychiatric tests for members of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad before the relabeling of that group or the redeployment of members of that group. Well, this is a clear indication. Indeed, it is true that this particular fellow was a member of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, that perhaps no psychiatric evaluation was carried out.
I don't think so.
And if they've not carried it out, his name is showing there, or, it should be subjected to a mental health test. And there should be regular drug tests for people who are given arms and ammunition in Nigeria. Because you were saying that he appeared drunk. He looked drunk. He looked like he was high on something. Because what is it that they say? The police is your friend. Now, this one was not behaving as a friend. In this particular report, we were told that the civilians who were there, they had to take to their heels immediately because they were in the presence not of a friend, but of an enemy, wielding a dangerous weapon and wearing uniform bought for him by the Nigerian people to protect them. Yes. And he's using the uniform to engage in acts of aggression and brutality and man's inhumanity to man against the same people who have paid the tax that have made it possible for him to be wearing that uniform.
I mean, how do you even slap a woman to start with wearing a uniform?
Two things, Audrey. Number one, if they are to take a psychological mental evaluation test in this country, only few people will pass, honestly. And I'll tell you why. I want to dial back this man's case to his family and upbringing. We don't raise people well any longer in this country, Audrey. Let's not deceive ourselves. Our family values are gone. It's eroded. You see, because most of your brain is formed before you are 10. And you see, your 10-year-old self never dies. Most of the things you do, even up to your 70, 80, are the formations that happen in your brain before you were 10. So if you had a lot of trauma in the way you were being raised, it's obvious. Psychological examination can just show you what it is. Coaching can help you correct those things. But in the long run, it goes back to the experiences children have before they are 10, when their brain is still in formation. And this is very important. That's why marriages are breaking in this country. And that's why police are accidentally accidental discharge is happening and all of that. And that's why we have societal problems. Politicians are doing what they do, stealing from the people. You get? That's why we have insurgency and crime everywhere. A man that does this is not fit to wear the police uniform.
At all.
So whatever the case might be, he should be dismissed.
Should be dismissed immediately.
But in dismissing too, we should also have a remedial service, where we can rehabilitate people. Maybe he could probably do well by running a business or selling other things, but not the police force. Because if you can act this way, if you cannot control your anger, then there's no way being in the police force. Secondly, it just shows how the police force has deteriorated. So I was talking to a couple of my very close friends and partners. They said one of them finished, I think, Unilag in 1979. So they said he got a first car. And he went back to some of his friends that were in 400 level and they traveled around the country. As at 1979, 1980. And he said, when they were going, some police officers stopped them on the road and said, where are you people going? Do your parents know you've traveled this far? They said, no. And the police officers detained them and called their parents the next day that we found your child so place. And they voted somebody to accompany them back to their parents.
Right.
That used to be the Nigerian police force. But the case is not the same. So it needs a holistic societal change. But there's fire on the mountain, and it starts from the families.
There is fire on the mountain. We shall take our final story with this video of Tori Yoge, a television reporter who was knocked down by a car while she was reporting live on air. Tori is a reporter for WSAZ in Huntington, West Virginia. She was reporting the news from Denver on Wednesday night when the incident occurred. Let's take a look.
Fortunately, in freeze thaw, we see this water main breaks.
I got hit by a car, but I'm okay. I just got hit by a car, but I'm okay, Tim.
That's the first for you on TV, Tori.
Woo! We're all good. I'm okay. Yeah, that's live TV for you. It's all good. I actually got hit by a car in college, too, just like that.
Wow.
I am so glad I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
TV, Tori.
Woo! We're all good. I'm okay. Yeah, that's live TV for you. It's all good. I actually got hit by a car in college, too, just like that.
Wow.
I am so glad.
Also, many things to discuss here, but it just goes to show how, we are, we're always in the forefront of everything. It reminds me of Femi Akinsonya, actually, when she stood her ground during that altercation that ensued during the NSAS protest. But, when I watched the video, I thought to myself, the anchor did not even react. It's probably because he did not see, he had no visuals of her during her broadcast. That's the only excuse I can give. But I saw his look, and he didn't even look like he was shocked to start with. But she
looked shocked. He raised his eyebrows and
for a second.
Yes,
a car hit the woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think that was enough shock that he expressed. I don't think. But the only excuse I can give is that he probably did not see her. He had no visual of her.
I think he saw it because his eyes widened and his eyebrows raised.
Well, all right. She apparently was reporting. She was doing a whole one-man team, and she seemed like she was pretty fine. She's really a tough woman.
But this is my issue with the anchor. Some people are not that demonstrative.
Yeah.
Facially, emotionally, they're a bit calm. But his response, his reaction for me, says a lot about the culture there. That woman should never have been put in that risk. Who was behind her? Who was watching her? How were they set up so close to the street?
It appears.
Yes. So that should not have been done. And her colleague didn't seem perturbed. He didn't seem concerned, but he saw it. So there's no excuse that he didn't see it. He did. You can see the flicker of expression on his face. He saw it. This is very disturbing, actually.
Right.
It's not. This is not okay.
Lucky. It wasn't fatal.
Yes, very lucky.
It was ironically our last week on the job that this happened. It's also an indication of occupational hazard, the kind of hazard that people are on live TV face. You get insulted almost every minute.
Yes.
You know, if it is not a car hitting you, it's a guest, you know, getting you upset, or some people making unnecessary noise in your ears. But she said, well, it's live TV.
Yes,
the show goes on.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's good that, you know, that was not a fatal incident. Well, thank you very much.
Well, all right. Do we not have any more time? Well, all right.
This morning.
Well, that's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you next week.